What's up, ladies and gents? You know what time of day it is. It's XCN time, and in today's video we're going to be talking all about XCN. We're going to be discussing what we are seeing here on the charts, and I'll be giving you guys my price prediction for XCN over the coming days, as well as my targets for 2025. So be sure to stay tuned for all of that. Of course, if you're a new viewer, then welcome to this channel. If you do like this sort of content, hit the like button and subscribe for more. If you are a returning viewer, as always, welcome back to this channel. It's great to have you all here. So we're going to be diving straight into this video, and we're first going to be discussing XCN here on the shorter term. So we are on the 1 hour chart right now, and of course, as you can see, basically we've had a little dump over the past few hours. That of course feeds into this downtrend that we've been seeing now for the past few days. And so this drop that we've had over the past few hours was due to the fact that we've had some economic data come out. So we've had this GDP growth rate data come out for the USA, and basically the moment that came out, that's when we saw a drop throughout the whole of the markets. And essentially you can kind of see why. Of course, the consensus and the forecast for the GDP in the USA was set at 0.3 and 0.5 cents. But the actual figure that came out was minus 0.3%. So essentially, this is saying that the economy of the USA has contracted in Q1 of 2025. So that is pretty bearish news if that is true. Of course, it's way below the consensus figures as well. So that's probably why we've seen a shorter term dump in the markets. Of course, if you are a shorter term holder here on XCN as well, don't forget to check trading economics, because this week and next week there's a lot of economic data coming out that could really affect the prices here in XCN. For example, things like the unemployment rate should be pretty big. The Fed interest rate decision that's coming out on May the 7th is definitely one to set your alarms for here as well, because this could add a lot of volatility here into XCN. So you want to be aware of those, particularly as short-term holders here on XCN. So that's why we've seen this little dump here on XCN. Of course, it's not just XCN, that's obviously the whole crypto market. As you can see in the top right hand corner, that is kind of bleeding from this news. Basically every crypto that we've covered on this channel is in the top right here, and you can see that almost every single one of them is down. So it's not been the greatest day at all. So where does that leave us here on XCN? What is the short-term outlook and what is the longer-term outlook? So we're going to start off with the shorter term, and I'm going to start off with the bullish news here for XCN. So the first thing to note is that although if we look at the chart like this, it doesn't look all too great. Of course, we have this short-term confirmed downtrend, but the moment you zoom out here on XCN and just look at the month of April so far, we get a whole different picture here on XCN. This is what April looks like so far on XCN, and you can see that we started April at roughly 0.8 cents. So right now, at the prices that we are currently at, we are still 2x from where we started April. So there is still a lot of longer term progress. Of course, the structure here on XCN looks something a little bit like this, where we are making a series of higher lows. Of course, that low on April the 7th was at 0.7 cents. We had these two lows in mid-April where the low there was 1.6 cents. And right now, although we are dipping, we are still above the previous low. So immediately, this is the line we are looking for in order to remain bullish here in the shorter term. Of course, the prices need to stay above this 1.6 cents region, and then we've still got this really nice bullish structure. And of course, if we can keep above that 1.6 cents level, I do expect that the moment we get a breakout of something like this, so we have this shorter term resistance going across, the moment we get a breakout of this resistance, we could see quite a nice reversal here on XCN, something maybe like this in the shorter term. Of course, sort of replicating what we saw back here on the 21st, 22nd of April. Of course, that is the bullish outlook here for the shorter term. And if we have a look at this upper resistance line here as well, this would be particularly interesting, because if the prices do manage to pump to this level and we start to see a clear breakout past this resistance line, for example, then we could see this right angle triangle sort of pattern triggered off. And of course, this pattern in itself gives us a price target here of 3.7 cents to the upside. So we are looking at a potential 63% trade if we break out of this right angled triangle. So we have a lot of bullish setups here on XCN in the shorter term. And of course, that is the bullish scenario. Now let's consider what happens if the prices keep falling. So if the prices do decide to continue heading down, let's say we get more bad economic data here and the prices do decide to slip below this 1.6 cents level, then the next levels down, we can expect to see some sort of support here for Onyxcoin fall along these fib levels. You can see these fib levels have been important here for Onyxcoin as the prices have consolidated in this region. And so essentially, if we lose this 1.6 cents level, which is coincidentally right by this 0.618 fib, the next fib down for us here, which could be a place of support, is this 0.5 fib. And that gives us a price here of roughly 1.45 cents. So if we lose that 1.6 cents level, 1.45 cents could be next. And of course, what we want to look for is some sort of sign that we could start to see a new shorter term uptrend emerge. Of course, if this 1.45 cents level doesn't hold, then Onyxcoin is likely taking a trip down to this 1.25 cents region. That's the 0.382 fib here on Onyxcoin. Now, of course, the main thing supporting this bearish scenario at the moment is the fact that if we go on the one-day chart briefly, you can see that on the MACD, we have had a sell signal where the two lines have crossed over. Of course, you can see the bars have gone from green to red, indicating that the momentum on Onyxcoin has shifted from bullish to bearish. So this is kind of the main proponent here for a bearish case shorter term scenario on Onyxcoin. Of course, there is plenty of reasons, in my opinion, also to be very bullish here on Onyxcoin, both in the shorter term and in the longer term. Of course, the main bullish thing at the moment is the fact that we have started on a new macro bullish trend. If we have a look at Bitcoin, despite the shorter term noise, the shorter term bearishness that we have seen, the structure on Bitcoin looks absolutely amazing. We've broken past this 3-month long downtrend guided by this resistance that you can see here. We saw a massive breakout to the upside where Bitcoin traveled to 95k, smashing past major resistances here. And now we have consolidated well above the 90k region. So in my opinion, the likelihood of Bitcoin resuming this uptrend rather than just heading straight back down is very, very likely. So I think in essence that this is more likely than down. And of course, if Bitcoin is heading up, that's going to be bullish here for XCN as well. On top of that as well, I've shown you this graph in some previous videos. This is the global liquidity compared to Bitcoin. And as you can see, the demonstration here is that the correlation is very, very similar. When the global liquidity increases, generally the prices of cryptocurrencies also increase. And so what we're seeing right now is global liquidity is massively increasing and the price of Bitcoin is starting to follow that. So as you can see from this comparison, the price of Bitcoin is obviously right now around 93k. We are about here on this timeline. So we've still got all this distance to travel to catch up with the global liquidity. And of course, that's going to be a major narrative for crypto prices in general to go up. Of course, the global liquidity is rising right now. So this means that even in the shorter term, we could see things switch up very, very quickly here on XCN, where prices start to rise very quickly. That, of course, is one of the main reasons to be bullish here on XCN. At the end of the day as well, if you have a longer term perspective here on XCN, I personally don't think you should worry anyway, because if we now consider where XCN stands in a slightly longer time frame, we have a picture that looks like this. Let me just get rid of these shorter term annotations here on XCN. In fact, let's just do this. And of course, what we're seeing here on XCN could be just considered a consolidation that we've been seeing since January. This is something that I've had my eye on, particularly since we made this third high here at the 23rd of April. This kind of confirmed this pattern for me, but essentially what we are seeing is some sort of bull flag pattern. Of course, we got this January high where the prices came to the 5 cents region. We had this really nice pump in April that formed this lower high here on XCN. Of course, this showed us this resistance going across, and the fact that the prices on the 23rd of April came up to this resistance once again and got rejected by it confirms to me that we've got a strong resistance here on XCN. Of course, we've also got a parallel support when you combine the high of the price at the start of January there and the lows of the price here in April. So we've got two parallel lines both heading in this downwards direction, and so we've got this kind of macro pattern here where we've got this bull flag, and of course this bull flag is a bullish chart pattern. And so if we break out of this bull flag, so something like this for example, then we could be looking at an immensely huge price target here on XCN. We could be looking at the distance of the parabolic move going into the bull flag as the price target from any such breakout. Of course, if that occurs, let's just say mid-May 2025, we could be looking at a price target here of 13.3 cents. If that occurs over the next few days, it could be as high as 14.3 cents. So a very bullish longer term outlook indeed. And that's why I'm saying that if you are a longer term holder, you shouldn't be too bothered about the shorter term price action here on XCN, because whether we do something like this, for example, where we just see a straight pump in the shorter term and breakout, is no different to if we see a drop down to, let's say, even 1 cent here on XCN, because as you can see, the prices still remain well within this bull flag style pattern. We only really get invalidation if we drop below that support, but I think that is almost impossible to get down to these levels. But I think it's very improbable that we get down to these levels once again. And of course, that means that we will remain in this bull flag until at some point we do see XCN break out to the upside. So with this bull flag here, it is a bit of a longer term one. We could see a breakout within the next few days. That's very, very possible. And there's plenty of reasons why we could see that. But we could also see a breakout within a few months even. But of course, once we see a breakout, that price target to the upside remains the same. So this resistance here on XCN is definitely one you want to keep an eye out for. Of course, if you are looking for a place to trade any breakout here on XCN, then look no further than the MEXC exchange. This is the exchange that I use for all my trading because they have some of the lowest fees that don't require KYC to get started. And for a limited time only, they're giving every new user who signs up using the link in the description down below a free $20. So if you want to make use of that offer, sign up using the link in the description down below. It takes less than a minute to do so. Deposit some fiat or crypto into your account, and then they'll give you that $20 straight away. So you can, for example, use it to buy some XCN or go long on XCN on any such breakout. Of course, thank you so much for your support. Let's get back into this video. So of course, this is one of the major patterns that I'm looking for here on XCN. At the end of the day as well, my targets for 2025 on top of the price target from this bull flag stems from the Fibonacci levels. Of course, you know, if you've been watching my channel, that we love these fib levels because essentially Onyxcoin really does respect them as places of support and resistance. For example, as the prices did this 3-month drop here on Onyxcoin from January to April, we saw the prices touch this 0.382 fib. We saw a bounce on the price in April to 0.786 fib, and now we're kind of consolidating just above this 0.618 fib. So we know that Onyxcoin really respects these fibs. So if we do see a pump, we can expect these fib levels to be places of resistance as the prices head higher. And the two main fibs that I'm looking at here on XCN are these two here. The first one is the 1.414 fib, which is at 17 cents and is also conveniently the previous all-time high here on Onyxcoin. If the prices can get past that, then the main price target that I have here on Onyxcoin is this upper 1.618 fib at 33 cents. So these are my longer term 2025 targets. I do believe these are going to probably be hit maybe in Q4 of 2025. I do think it's going to be a little while before prices can get to this region. Of course, as a summary of everything that I have said, I am mixed at the moment. Of course, on the shorter term, I am seeing some bearish signs and I'm seeing some bullish ones as well. The main bearish thing is that we've got a crossover on the MACD and that the whole market is dropping, the fact that Bitcoin dominance is still very, very high. But on the bullish side of things, the April performance here on XCN has been phenomenal. Still, we have a bullish chart pattern that looks like a right angle triangle with a 3.7 cents price target here on XCN. And in the slightly longer term, we are seeing this bull flag pattern as well that could take us as high as 14 cents. The main thing to back the longer term narrative over the coming weeks and months is the fact that we've got the global liquidity just generally increasing. And of course, the more liquidity there is in the markets, the more money that flows into crypto. And that's why they rise so much in unison. As always, I will keep you guys up to date. So if you're not yet subscribed, be sure to subscribe and turn on the notifications if you like these daily updates here on XCN. Otherwise, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next one.